There is a familiar debate playing out again in Delhi. Protesters from the unreserved categories are demanding that reservations should be based on economic status rather than caste. Their argument is simple: government assistance such as scholarships, fee support, coaching, and educational benefits should reach those who are economically disadvantaged, irrespective of caste. They are also demanding a review of the existing reservation system, including a stronger creamy layer criterion. But there is another, far more contentious demand. The protesters are also calling for the repeal of the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act, arguing that the law can be misused and that its benefits do not necessarily reach those who are most disadvantaged. Now, this is where the reservation debate becomes much more complicated. Let us first acknowledge something important. The argument that poverty should matter is not an unreasonable one. There are poor people in every community. There are families from traditionally privileged communities who struggle to pay school, coaching, or college fees. Young people from unreserved categories may have no financial advantage simply because of their caste. Their frustration cannot simply be dismissed. But there is an equally important question. Is reservation actually a poverty alleviation program? The answer is no. Reservation was never conceived merely as financial assistance for poor people. The constitutional idea behind reservation was also about representation and correcting historical social exclusion. That distinction matters. A poor person and a socially discriminated person may both face hardship, but the nature of that hardship can be very different. A poor student may struggle because the family has limited income. A person from a historically disadvantaged caste may face barriers that are not necessarily removed even when the family's income improves. That is why reducing the entire reservation debate to poverty versus caste is too simplistic. At the same time, the protesters are raising another legitimate question. If reservation is intended to help disadvantaged communities, should its benefits continue to reach people who have already achieved substantial social and economic advancement? That is where the creamy layer debate becomes relevant. The larger question should perhaps not be whether reservation should be for caste or poverty. The better question is whether India needs a more sophisticated system that recognizes both social disadvantage and economic disadvantage. Because India today is not the India of 1950. The country has changed enormously. There is a much larger middle class, education has expanded, new professions have emerged, and economic mobility has transformed many families. But discrimination has not disappeared either. So the answer cannot simply be to abolish caste-based reservation. One possibility is to retain constitutional protection for communities that continue to face structural social discrimination, while ensuring that benefits within those categories are directed more effectively towards those who genuinely need them. At the same time, economic disadvantage among people outside the reserved categories cannot be ignored. Government assistance for education, scholarships, coaching, and skill development can certainly be expanded on the basis of economic need. In other words, perhaps India needs more help for the poor without pretending that poverty and caste-based discrimination are the same problem. And then there is the SCST Act. That debate needs even greater care. If there are genuine instances of misuse, they should be investigated and addressed through due process. But repealing a law designed to protect communities from atrocities is a much larger proposition. That is why the protest deserves to be discussed seriously, even by people who disagree with some of its demands. Because beneath the slogans is a question India has never really resolved. The protesters are saying, give assistance to the poor, regardless of caste. Those defending the existing system will say, poverty alone cannot capture centuries of social discrimination. Both arguments contain a part of the truth. The real challenge is finding a policy that acknowledges both. Because reservation was never supposed to become a permanent political battlefield between communities, it was supposed to be an instrument of social justice. And social justice must ultimately be measured by one simple question. Are we actually reaching the people who need help the most? That is the debate India should be having, not simply whether reservation should exist, but whether the system as it exists today is still delivering the justice it was created to deliver.